Slowing down the aging process on a cellular level. Our next guest wrote a book on this very subject. It's called Harnessing the 9 Hallmarks of Aging. Greg Macpherson is joining us now to discuss this book and how to harness our DNA. How you doing?
So I'm doing a great job, thank you.
First off, thank you for waking up at 2 a.m. in the morning there in New Zealand to do this interview with us. We really appreciate it.
You're welcome. Beaming in from New Zealand.
We like it. Okay, let's get to this book. It's very interesting. Why did you want to start studying DNA? I understand you were a pharmacist, right?
Yeah, that's right. I've been studying, biotechnology for the last 10 years, and really what prompted me to write this book was all about just because I was reading a lot of papers about aging, and I just all of a sudden realized that I needed to, make this information available to a whole bunch of people, make it accessible.
Well, in your research, you found that DNA is linked to aging. How do we unlock the power of our DNA?
Yeah, DNA are remarkable molecules. I think we all know them from school back in the day when we, learnt about how they are the code or information for our cells, and they define who we are. And over the last decade or so, people have realised, and researchers have realised, that your DNA is actually intimately involved in aging, and it can actually has an effect on how fast we age. So essentially, that's what makes it so important. And what we're learning now is that you can actually determine and have a look at your DNA and see actually how old your cells are acting.
Okay, that's so interesting. So we have 2 different ages, you say, yes?
Yeah, that's right. We've got our chronological age, which we all know is our birthday, but we've also got a biological age, and this is actually determined on our DNA, and it can be quite different to our biological age. So we could actually be in our 50s, and our body can be aging quite differently. So you might see some people who are perhaps aging super well, are super fit, people in the 80s and 90s that have got lots of energy. These are people that actually are aging, have a biological age which is much lower than their chronological age.
Now, you also talk about something in the book called the blue zones. Can you give us a little bit more detail about that?
Yeah, blue zones are 5 regions around the world where people just live much longer than the rest of us. And so our researchers went in and had a really good look at what was going on with those at that time in those places. And what they found was that these people were doing things slightly different than the rest of us. They were exercising or working a lot more, moving a lot more, I should say. They also had a slightly different diet than the rest of us. They were quite often plant-based. They actually had their biggest meal at the beginning of the day, and also they never ate until they were full, and that made quite a difference to their health.
Now, your book, it talks about the 9 hallmarks of aging. We can't get into each one. Of course, you want people to read it, but can you kind of highlight one that you were just very fascinated by?
Yes, certainly. So in my book, Harnessing the 9 Hallmarks of Aging, we talk about what these hallmarks essentially, and they really hallmarks is really just the cause of aging. And so there are 9 of them. And the key one really we've talked about is DNA aging, which is so important. And if we can actually control the rate in which our DNA is aging, and we do that through good exercise, through diet, and taking interesting new supplements that haven't been available to previous generations, then we can actually slow that aging process down.
Wow, this is so fascinating. Greg, we really appreciate you joining us. Get back to sleep, okay? I want to tell people how people can purchase your book. They can go to your website, which is listed at the bottom of the screen right now. It is the9hallmarksofaging.com. Again, the9hallmarksofaging.com. Check it out today.